well, doubling the effort to fix the streets in Corpus Christi and raising property taxes. It's all contained in the city manager's latest budget proposal. It's a plan that tops $1 billion for the first time ever, and he formally presented it to city council members today. So how will it affect all the folks who live and work in Corpus Christi? Brian Burns here now with details on this top story. Brian?
Well, Joe, the proposed budget represents a 2-cent voter-approved tax increase for residents and will be presented to the public at 5 meetings for public input in the next month.
We'll have the highest level of street maintenance and reconstruction in the city's history.
In a presentation to council, City Manager Peter Zanoni describes the big changes in next year's $1.1 billion budget. He says with the help of department heads and reprioritizing city funds, the city has now earmarked $128 million for residential street repair.
If we look at the past 2 years and add those together, we still have more money in the new budget than those 2 past years combined.
54% of the overall budget is earmarked for police and fire, but that also includes funds for 5 new police officers and 16 more fire academy cadets than last year. Zanoni says a long-term plan will add 5 new police officers each year through 2024. Another change is an increase in park maintenance.
We're increasing mowing in our city parks. We're cutting the time it takes to mow from one cycle to the next in half.
That means park grass cutting every 14 days instead of 30. Other highlights include eliminating the entrance fees at all city pools, reducing outside contractors by assigning some work to city staff, saving almost $5 million, and adding 12 more project inspectors for street and other improvement project contracts.
We're going to take 3 staff members from a lesser priority area, use the position and the money to focus on 2 important issues for the community, homelessness and affordable or workforce housing.
Now, the first of 5 public input meetings on the budget and tax rate increase will be held on August 12th at the Owen Hopkins Library. You can find all the dates and locations on our webpage at KIIITV.com. Joe?
All right, Brian, thank you.